Welcome to On the Pen Live. I'm your host, Dave Knapp, man on the Manjaro. That's why I'm here. You are on the pen with Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, Manjaro, Zepbound, Compound, that pen, and we've got a doozy to get into with you today. It's a new bill that, by my reading, could effectively end compound as we know it, at least currently, for hundreds of thousands of people. And we're going to get into that because it matters to this community. This bill, cloaked in patient safety, is actually more like a Christmas present to Big Pharma, wrapped in patient safety wrapping paper, right? With a pretty little patient safety bow on it. But what does it actually do? What does it actually mean? To the best of our abilities, we're going to get into that today because this one could make a big difference. Welcome. If you're just joining here, I ask that you hit the thumbs up button and hit the subscribe button wherever you're watching. That helps to train the algorithm that this content is worthy of making it out to other people. And so what I'm going to do here first is I'm just going to read through my take on the bill. And again, this is my first take on this. This was just brought to my attention by the Obesity Action Coalition last night. The Obesity Action Coalition is a patient-centric obesity advocacy organization that has done yeoman's work in helping to expand access. So when I saw that they had put their stamp of approval on this, and then I read through it, I was pretty surprised enough to send them an email and chat with them. So I want to couch this all in essentially, this is my first read of this and giving them the benefit of the doubt in terms of their belief that if these changes were implemented, they felt like it's something that they could really ultimately get behind compounds for. I have a different read on it. At first glance, I'm going to read through it with you and read through, at least through my take on it, and then read through the actual bill with you to hear your 10 cents on this. But the introduction of the Safeguarding Americans from Fraudulent and Experimental Drugs Act of 2025, it's an acronym for SAFE, Safe Drug Act of 2025, Congress is revisiting the balance of pharmaceutical manufacturing and compounding. And to be fair, this balance is something that's worth revisiting. The landscape has changed dramatically with the advent of GLP-1 medications. Patients deserve safe medication. They also deserve transparency about what they're taking. They deserve confidence that their prescription was made in a facility that meets basic standards. And these are noble goals. These goals matter for patients, and they should matter to each and every one of you within the sound of my voice. But patients also, at the same time, deserve access, and they deserve affordability. They deserve, above all, depending on how this all lands, because we can debate what the implications of this bill would be, but we cannot debate the fact that people could lose access, and those people that would lose access deserve continuity of health care. They deserve that because this is ultimately what is at stake. So this bill arrives at a moment when demand for GLP-1s has far outpaced the structure, whether we're talking about the manufacturing capacity or whether we're talking about the insurance infrastructure. The infrastructure has not been designed to deal with something with this level of need and demand. And it arrives at a moment where patients are literally getting letters every day saying that their insurance companies are going to drop coverage for these medications next year. It arrives when people are trying to figure out what they're going to do in terms of their choices for healthcare plans for next year. It is a very uncertain time. And to throw this monkey wrench of what's could potentially happen with compounds is just, another frustration, and patients pay the tax once more. It arrives at a moment when compounding became a bridge, not because patients wanted a workaround to this system, they didn't ask for it, but because patients needed a workaround. They needed a bridge to get them to another option for treatment because literally it was the only path forward for them. The stated goal of the Safe Drug Act attempts to address real safety concerns, and I want to be very clear. We agree there are bad players in the compounding space, and there is some benefit I think that patients would see from a standardization of how we approach regulation on compounds. wholeheartedly agree with that. But the real world impact of the way this bill is written looks to me like it would fall mostly on the most vulnerable patients out there and the people who have the least margin for error. So what does this bill actually do? And we'll go back through, if you'd like, at the end and read through the actual bill. But I want to just gloss over the top level, really, because the language of the way that this was written actually leaves a fair amount open to interpretation. It could break this way, could break that way. Eventually, these things end up in courts, and judges end up interpreting this. And I think that's my real fear, and where I lead with the headline is people could lose their access, because it does limit 503A pharmacies to just 20 compounded prescriptions per month for any drug that contains an active ingredient found in a commercially available product. And then it creates a reporting mechanism for those compounding more than 20. So just a level of added bureaucracy for those looking to compound more than 20 per month. Currently, 503As are serving thousands of patients. So this would severely tighten the definition of what counts as, compounding personalized medications. It limits the amount, but then it also really severely tightens the definition of what's counted as an essential copy, which in my estimation, the way that this is written would close the door on many personalized versions of compounded GLP-1s, or at least at a minimum leave that open to interpretation of a judge somewhere, which is very, very nerve-wracking. For those who are curious who introduced this bill was actually introduced by two representatives from the state of Indiana. And a pop quiz for the community is, what is the ironic part of these representatives being from the state of Indiana? Anybody? Can anybody in the chat give me that answer? But moving on, it places new reporting requirements on pharmacies that are dispensing out of state. As you know, many of these pharmacies are dispensing out of state. And it essentially creates a new category, a new level of regulation for 503B facilities, placing them under more frequent inspections that they'll essentially be required to pay for. Now, in a perfect world, none of this would feel all that controversial. Patients would be fully covered. Supply would always be steady. Branded GLP-1s would be affordable to the average household. Safety and access would be the same path. They wouldn't be this either or thing in an ideal world. But we don't live in that world. It's getting better from the branded side, but we're not there yet. And this bill, unfortunately, reads as if we are. If you're interested in reading this bill directly, I have it linked in our article on our Substack. Go to obesity.news. Just type that into your browser. The link is in the description of this video. Obesity.news will take you right to our Substack article, and it's linked right there in pink boldface right at the beginning of the article. You can actually read that, and we'll read it together shortly. So as I said at the outset, again, I'm trying not to knee-jerk react to this too much, but the safety goals, I believe, are valid. Like I said, we want safe and accessible drugs. They don't have to be mutually exclusive, and I do believe that the current system for compounded medications was not created with this kind of scenario in mind. Right? So I think there are some things that need to be addressed. There have been real concerns about variable quality among compound products. Put it in the comments of this video if you have experienced this yourself. I know thousands of you who have said, I got it from A, B, C, or D, and this was my experience. I'm curious to hear from you in the comments what your experience has been with the variable quality among compounded products, mislabeled vials, dosing discrepancies, and contamination risks that have been cited with FDA inspections or state pharmacy inspections, especially with 503A pharmacies because they lack the oversight that 503Bs have from the FDA in terms of this current goods and manufacturing process. So those concerns deserve attention. And as our friend Sabina over at GLP Winner points out, why not just require adverse event reporting from 503As the same way that they're required of 503Bs? That would be a simple fix. But again, this reads to me more like a Christmas present for Big Pharma wrapped in patient safety wrapping paper. So moving on, when a medication is injected versus swallowed, I really do think the consequence, objectively, the consequences grow vastly more significant. So I'm not putting to the side concerns about safety. We want patients to have safe and accessible medications. But these safety sort of ideals and access are not opposing forces. They rise and they fall together. You can't have one without the other. So when regulation restricts, and this is part where I want you to hear me, when regulation restricts access without providing a clear alternative, patients are the ones who absorb the cost. It's always at the expense of patients, and usually always at the expense of the most vulnerable patients. This results in patients losing continuity and falling back into the very health struggles that these medications were rescuing them from. And taking away that bridge without building a suitable replacement is not patient protection, it's patient abandonment. And that's essentially what we're seeing, because even with the cost of the branded medications coming down in meaningful ways, it still leaves a gap of people who cannot afford those medications. And if you take that away, you pull the rug out from under them, what are those patients to do? What are those patients to do? The other aspect of this is telehealth, and I think we have to address this issue as well. Telehealth compounding could contract sharply, which means less telehealth options out there, even though telehealth care now has been shown to be safe and effective access for patients. Check this out. So many patients have turned to telehealth because their traditional access points have failed them miserably. Whether they're in rural areas where they can't get a obesity specialist doctor, or there have been shortages over the past couple of years, wait lists, insurance denials, all of these different barriers, lack of trained clinicians who understand the benefit of these seems to be a constant issue with patients. Patients have turned to virtual care that has met patients exactly where they need to be. In fact, the sponsor of our podcast is Shed, who helps patients meet patients where they are, whether they are patients who lack insurance coverage or the means to afford the branded medication. There are pathways to the branded medications, the cash pay branded medications, or the compounded medications. The point is, they simply meet people where they're at. And under the Safe Drugs Act, any pharmacy filling 503A pharmacy filling more than 20 compounded GLP-1s prescription a month to patients who live out of state have to submit detailed reports to federal regulators. And that level of scrutiny, my fear is, could shrink these operations quickly, even when the underlying care that these patients are receiving is strong. And before some of the doctors in this community who seem to think that their path is the only pathway forward and everybody else is just a pill mill, let's take a look at some peer-reviewed data that shows us how strong that actual patient care can be. Today, Roe published a peer-review outcome study in the Journal of Obesity, and they co-authored with leading obesity clinicians showing that patients treating with semaglutide through telehealth platforms achieved weight loss and safety outcomes that matched what was seen in clinical trials. Over 68 weeks, patients lost an average of 16.6% of their body weight, with roughly 33% losing 20% or more with semaglutide. And women in the study lost an average of 18.1% compared to 13.4% for men. We were getting into this discussion yesterday. So sex was the only factor that's significantly associated with greater weight loss. And the side effects were consistent with what was already known in the clinical trials with no new safety signals. That's with telemedicine. So this reinforces the truth that often gets lost in these policy debates and in the debate online that takes place usually between blowhard people who think that they're the only ones that do it right. But it reinforces the truth that often gets lost, and that's that telehealth is not a weak link in the chain of obesity care. It's not a shortcut. Telehealth is not where danger lies. In most cases, telehealth is the only channel that patients can rely on. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of patients rely on access to telemedicine, and this would be devastating. In my estimation, this would be devastating. I'm open to being educated. I'm open to hearing from policy experts and legal experts, of which I am not. But the way that this reads is again, it is a Christmas present to Big Pharma wrapped in patient safety wrapping paper. And the bill doesn't do anything to distinguish between responsible compounding and irresponsible compounding, or responsible care and irresponsible care. It restricts access to compounds based solely on monthly volume, and it closes the channels where alternatives have not expanded enough to keep pace. And these people who feel that the contraction will feel that contraction first are the ones who rely on telehealth, the ones in the system that is that the system offline, the traditional healthcare system, has failed them miserably. Patients deserve better. Patients deserve better than a choice between stability and affordability. Every patient currently using compound medication is there for a specific reason. Maybe it's their insurance, which categorically excludes obesity treatment. Maybe it's their copay that's as much as their car payment. Maybe the branded drug has been out of stock at their pharmacy. Maybe their provider cannot get them into a covered clinic for several weeks. Whatever it is, the Safe Drugs Act does not appear to solve any of these barriers. Instead, it looks more like a Christmas present for Big Pharma wrapped in a patient safety bow. It limits one pathway without opening another for the most vulnerable among us, and that's not balance. That's not the balance we're looking for. If we want safety and consistency, we must also want affordability and access, and patients deserve all of it, not pieces of it. A patient-centric policy, in my estimation, would include 3 commitments. A commitment to safety through strong oversight. I'm all on board for that. A commitment to access through insurance reform and affordability measures. Some of that is already happening. Hashtag abolish the PBMs. And thirdly, and most importantly, a commitment to continuity. So patients already stabilized on a treatment are not forced into metabolic whiplash when these policy changes happen. And that's my biggest fear with all of this. You take compounds away, ultimately what happens is a bunch of people who are getting treatment, who had invested in their treatment, invested in their health, all of a sudden backtrack, they backslide because they completely lose access to their medication. And that is my biggest fear in all of this. Again, I'm open to being educated on why that doesn't happen in this scenario, but that looks exactly like what would happen in this scenario. The Safe Drug Act raises real safety questions, and those questions matter, but the answers cannot leave patients behind. We cannot leave the most vulnerable people in our community in the dust, and they cannot assume that access does not they cannot assume that access does not exist. They cannot move faster than the system is able to support. Safety matters, access matters, patients deserve both of those things at the same time, and policy that forgets that will fail to meet patients who need these medications the most. That is my take on the legislation that is currently being discussed in the House of Representatives, introduced by a couple of representatives from the state of Indiana, where Eli Lilly hails from. And that should be of very little surprise to anyone. So that is the frustration that I have today for all of you. I don't know if y'all want to get into reading this together or not, but I'm going to check out the comments. If you have a question, please put it in the comments with a Q in front of it. That will allow me to know what is just being bandied about in the chat versus what is a question. And I really appreciate those of you who have joined us here. If you could do me the favor, hit the thumbs up button, hit the like button, share this with people who it matters and makes a difference to. And obviously go over to obesity.news and sign up for our email alerts, because that is where we give all of the updates, including when we go live here. We're now going live on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. That is what we do here to bring you the obesity medicine news that empowers you to have more competent and confident conversations with your doctor. If you've been watching for some time and you're not subscribed, why not? We would love to have you here as a member or a subscriber here. Thank you for being the best part of what we do. Crystal says, last I checked, providers have, let's see here. I got to readjust my screen here. Last I checked, providers have the same qualifications as brick and mortar office providers. Yes. Telehealth providers, I assume, is what you're talking about there. I agree. Do you think this will push more people to the gray market? That is obviously always the fear, is that when and it seems to be, that's the frustration, right? It seems like we always go after the next safest option instead of like pulling at the root of, what are the less savory options or less safe options for patients. 100%. I think that will happen. It's already happening with some of the other movement that we've seen on compounds. Welcome, Steph. She says, perfect. That's your office day lunch break. Glad to have you here on your lunch break today. Hopefully we'll have you every day. Hit the bell for notifications if you're on YouTube, so you get that bell and get notified every time that we go live. Appreciate that. Telehealth providers. Sue the Dude said, hey, JNeb, I hope the farm news yesterday gives you guys some relief. Absolutely. Here we got a question from Me Fancy. You mentioned that it would affect the number of prescriptions filled by 503A compound pharmacies. Is there mention of 503B? I think the whole goal of this legislation, honestly, is to curtail the compounding that has taken advantage of the loophole of personalized medication in a way that we haven't seen any other medication do this before, right? So in other words, when the shortages ended, the compounds didn't stop. People just started getting their compounds with, something to help with the side effect, or they got it in a personalized dose, personalized form that wasn't available in the commercial dose, which was sort of the loophole to continue to get compounded medications. I think this is an attempt to close that loophole, which would mean that 503Bs would move to only manufacturing it with the shortages in play. But there's also language in there that's open to interpretation, but seems to be, like it could be interpreted as narrowing the definition of shortages. And so not only is that a concern that it would shut down 503As, but that it would limit 503B's ability to compound, maybe even in times of shortages. Again, I'm open to policy experts and those who are in the know on the legal side of things to interpret that for me, but that's how I read it. Lead your knee and welcome, TJ. Good to see you here. The losing access is scary and the outcomes are not safe 100%. Ruben says, if Big Pharma is concerned about safety, lower your prices the same level of compounded medications for consumers. I think that's ultimately the goal, but it needs to happen much, much quicker, right? How quickly could this bill go into effect and shut down compound? A really great question, Sue the Dude. I mean, this ultimately is a long process. Nothing happens overnight. This would have to go through the Congress. It would have to be approved there. It'd have to come up for a vote there. And then it would have to go to the Senate. So we're talking about months. And then ultimately, it typically goes back to the House and then to the president. So we'll see what happens legislatively. But we're talking about something that would take months, not days or weeks. Let's see. Jen says, should I stockpile now? That's going to be a conversation between you and your doctor. Nothing is going to happen overnight. Nothing's going to happen overnight. Plus size, welcome. They're saying, I don't know who we have from the plus sides account. I mean, who do we got? But the plus sides account says they're pushing people to gray. I agree. Let's see. Farm bill helps corporate. Oh, we're going off topic with JNeb. Can you use a compound past a due date? That is never advisable. Agree with you, Dave. Safety angle is just another scam by Big Pharma. We all know pricing and access are the real issues. I think it's an excellent point. Can somebody answer how long a compound can be stored before it goes bad? They all have best buy dates. And I think the standard is once a compounded medication is punctured, then it has a 30-day on average, but consult with your own pharmacy on that for sure. That's part of this frustration with when we talk about standardizing things for compounding. I think that's a good thing, right? Because there's no standard answer to anything about dosing. There's no standard answers to best buy dates. There's no standard answers. There's so many variables, right? And I think some standardization and regulation would be a good thing. It would be an okay thing at this point. This system was never created for this many prescriptions on this level. But we'll see. We'll see. Wish you could speak in front of Congress. I would love the opportunity to do that. Don't forget that Congress has a recess coming up too. Yes, so we're talking about months, especially if it gets shut down again. In my humble opinion, but I also have no idea. It's Kimbo. Okay, I didn't know who exactly we had, but thanks, Kimbo, for clarifying. I'm glad it's at least something. Jennifer, Nebraska. Yeah, we're back to the farm bill. Personally, don't think this bill will go anywhere. I hope you're right. We'll have to see, right? Somebody pointed out that this was introduced by Republican representatives. I have not looked at that, but if that's the case, you could see where potentially this is something that maybe the administration has some teeth behind it. Begin because of the most favored nations agreement. Condi Carmack said GLP only drops effects aside from bacteria. Condi Carmack said GLP only drops effects aside from bacteria. I don't know what that means, buddy. Yep, I agree. Crystal says, I'm grateful to have coverage for brand name, but coverage has been on the chopping block several times. The whiplash statement hits home. Yeah, my prior auth renewals have had me sweating. Compound was a backup. I 100% am with you on that. I could not recommend right now more than anything that you all be aware of Claimable. We still have a discount code for them. Hopefully they'll continue to sponsor the podcast, but Claimable, let's see here. I got to remove the comment. Getclaimable.com/OTP. Use code OTP10 to save 10%. Claimable helps you fight your insurance denials, and they have a really good track record of getting people back on their medication. So if you've lost access to your branded medication through your insurance company, please check out Claimable. Getclaimable.com/OTP. They're basically fighting fire with fire, AI with AI. They help you build a medical case, a legal case, and get your medicine back if that's something that you're looking to fight. Claimable, great people there. Let's see. Okay. JB says it was proposed by 2 reps, 1 Republican and 1 Democrat. I mean, I got to imagine everybody's bought and paid for by Eli Lilly in the state of Indiana. So it's probably a bipartisan push. We use Claimable for my husband, got approved in less than 24 hours because of you, Dave. Thank you, Crystal. That's amazing. Those are exactly the stories we like to bring in. When we bring on sponsors to this podcast, we're only going to bring on sponsors that bring value to the community, and I can scarcely think of somebody who brings more value than Claimable. Love what they do. This is a concept of a plan. It will be about 2 weeks. Everybody's always got to get their political barbs in for sure. Google AI says the Zepbound savings card will be available on 2026, but I can't find any place on the Zepbound website that it will indeed be the case. I'm hopeful that you can find out a clear answer. I've been working to get an answer from Lilly. They told me they were going to get me an answer, and the longer that it goes on, the more I think they're getting the finer details of a PR strategy down versus the finer details of the savings card. So I'm hopeful that we'll get a savings card, but I'm feeling like if there was ever a time for a savings card to not get renewed and for there to be major changes in that, it would be now. And so I'm hopeful, but we'll have to see. And as soon as I have something, I'll bring it to you. Bipartisan just means both parties are on this particular grift. Timing not helpful. Okay, let's see here. Did I miss anything? I feel like we're pretty well caught up. I want to thank everyone for being here and remind everybody that we are live at 12 p.m. Eastern every Monday, Wednesday, Friday on our YouTube channel. Please hit subscribe if you're watching here. Go to our link tree, which is in the description of the video. You can go to otplinks.com. You can find out all about all of our different sponsors there. You can find links to savings card information. You can find all sorts of resources there. Check out otplinks.com. And then even these videos stream right there. So otplinks.com is a great resource to go to if you're looking for information on these medications, on what we talk about here on our live streams. And if you've been enjoying the lives, put lives in your in the comments. Don't forget to download your 2026 savings cards. Are they out, Jernine? I think that's kind of the question is we haven't seen them pop up yet. Think Pharma is in it with a 3-letter agency. Perhaps we've seen some evidence of that in the past. The plus side likes the lives. Thank you. Appreciate that. Crystal loves the lives. Appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. Hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. If you're watching on TikTok, every time you subscribe or hit follow up here, this little ticker goes up. And then we're always available on Instagram and YouTube, all over the place. As I've learned, the savings card will be available when it's available. Fair enough. We got lots of people enjoying the live, so I'm glad that you've enjoyed the lives. Thank you for showing up. The best way to get notifications, because we're on a list on YouTube that squashes the reach of our stuff. We just don't get shown to new people anymore. I don't know. We've done this with all the platforms, and I'm not going to belabor what has happened with each platform, but it has. So the best way to get our notifications is to go to Substack, obesity.news, and sign up for email alerts. When you sign up for email alerts, we typically post the live stream right in an email and send it to you, so you'll get that update right away, and you'll never miss a live when we go live at On the Pen. That's the best way to get it. Don't rely on the social media platforms to get your updates. Go to obesity.news, put your email address in, and once you do that, you're going to get all the email updates from On the Pen, and we have many updates. If you've been enjoying the email updates from On the Pen, put it in the comments. Let me know, because we put out new information every single day. Susanna has loved the lives. Check it out, Deanna. The savings cards work like this. We're at a very top level. They're going to work in conjunction with your private insurance, so not public insurance through Medicare, Medicaid, TRICARE, etc. But if you have private insurance through your employer, or private insurance through the marketplace, you're going to be able to download a savings card that's going to help you with your copay on your medication. So if your copay is $500, they're going to cover a good chunk of that so that you pay only $25. If your copay, it's just going to help your medication be least expensive. You can go to otplinks.com, and I have links to the Mounjaro savings card. I have links to the Zepbound savings card, to the Wegovy savings card, to the Ozempic savings card. It's all in there at otplinks.com. Easiest way. I've made it as easy as I can to help you find that. When does the SEMA patent ending? SEMA patent's ending in 2026 in Canada, so that's going to change the dynamics too. Here it ends in 2030. Ruben says, thank you for all your updates. The patent's being challenged here in the United States too, Janine, but otherwise I think they have to like 2030. So it's a ways away, but it's coming to India. It's coming to Canada. So it'll be interesting to see how that impacts the market dynamics here in the United States. Review Drip Mommy Real Show says, thank you for all this info. You're very welcome. If you're new here, please hit the thumbs up button, and then do me one more favor and hit the subscribe button. There's 400 people watching between YouTube and X. There's another 79 people watching on TikTok. Thank you. So we got nearly 500 people watching. If you could all do me a favor and just go to obesity.news and sign up for email alerts, because these platforms do not want this information out. They don't want us sharing this stuff as a community. And we are facing threats on every single social media platform that we're on of losing our account. You know that we lost our TikTok account last week. It took us a week to get it back. I had to fight tooth and nail. And now that we got it back, you all know that you're just kind of fighting an uphill battle with TikTok. We've got our reach throttled on YouTube. We've got our accounts under ban warnings on Facebook. We've lost our group several times. It's never ending. So the best way that you can stay in touch with On the Pen, if the information that you get from us is valuable, is to go to obesity.news and sign up for email alerts. So yeah, thank you for Dina for going to the link. I appreciate that. I saw India was producing generic SEMA. Yeah, it's it's happening. Dr. Reddy's. Yeah, I feel like they lost the ability to do it like right away in January, but it will be 2026 sometime. When is it coming to India? Yeah, that's in 2026. That's the knowledge that I have on that is limited. I feel like the last thing I saw is Dr. Reddy's wanted to launch it very early on in 2026 in January. I don't think they won that, and so I think it's going to be later on in 2026, maybe mid to late. Hambone's in the house. Oh, yeah, say hi to Hambone. Hambone is employee number 1 at On the Pen. So we got an office about 6 months ago. At around that time, maybe a little bit before. She's been working me probably off and on for about a year. But Hambone has been helping me out. Hambone is my sister. Very knowledgeable. She got a degree in psychology. Very knowledgeable about nutrition. Very knowledgeable about some of the obesogenic things that are in our environment. And so she's a great addition to On the Pen, and she's fun to have around. Who wouldn't want to hang out with your sister all day? And just laugh and be inappropriate. I'm always low-key afraid that I'm going to leave the camera on. And I think we both share that concern. But we have a good time. I'm getting my YouTube alerts so that you can be there when I start your lives. That's great. Thank you, Anna. I'm glad that you're getting them. I know somebody had to, I think it was Jennifer, said she had to take the app off of her phone and then re-upload the app, and then they started coming. Thank you, Zach, who says, keep up the great work. I appreciate that. Turkey seems to be on a decent place to find cheaper meds too, not these, but other very expensive ones. Very interesting, Carly. Okay, Carly, are you the same Carly from TikTok? Making those connections. Yeah, Hambone's in the house. Dave likes to be a goof and says, yeah, that's one word for it. So anyway, I appreciate y'all being here. Thank you for hanging out with me. We're in about 36 minutes. If you have questions, so what we've been talking about today is a piece of legislation that could potentially put compounds in danger. And so we've been doing that. But there are other things going on in the news. So if you have questions about GLP-1s, even if they're questions about your own journey or my personal journey, now is the time to drop them in the comments, because I've got about 20 more minutes or so scheduled to hang out with you. We're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And so we do this all the time. So join us. You can do that by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Every now and then we go live on TikTok as well. And fire that up. How you doing, TikTok? You over there? You got questions about your GLP-1 journey? Drop them in the chat. Lots of thank yous in the chat over on YouTube. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to be able to do this. This gives me energy to be able to come live with you every day and talk about my favorite topic, which is GLP-1 medications. I've got props too. So we've got props here. We've got, this is always fun because this is a Wegovy, what's it called? Like a test pen to teach people how to use it. So you literally can, I don't know, I better not put it in an unsavory place, but you see that it works. It's not actual medicine, but it shows you how the pen works. So that's pretty cool. That's a cool prop that I picked up at a trade show at some point. It's like the never-ending pen because you can just keep doing it, right? It's kind of fun. And then, so we talk about Ozempic and Wegovy, which are semaglutide. We talk about Zepbound and Mounjaro, which are tirzepatide. And we talk about all the future medications that are coming down the pike. We talk a lot about compounded versions as well. We just bring you all the news. Oh my goodness, as I'm scared to go down in dose, I think I'm in maintenance on 15. Yeah, if you're in maintenance on 15 and it's working well, I don't see a reason to change unless you want to feel a different way. But talk to your doctor about that for sure. My Lilly Direct orders the last 2 months have been disrupted. Have I heard this from anyone else? Julie, I have not heard that from anyone else, but perhaps sharing that in the comments here, somebody else will have something to say about that. If you're watching on TikTok, follow and make this ticker go up. But Julie, I have not heard anybody having disruptions in their Lilly Direct orders. We love you too, Julie. Thanks for being here. Rig it as a stun gun. I thought about just like doing, creating an unhinged account and just walking up behind people and like pretend, this is probably bad to even say out loud, but you know, just having some fun. That would be very mean though. Dave, I think the safety of these GLP-1s is overblown. Education is so critical. The misinformation out there is frustrating. I got to get this frog out of my throat, but I think this is a topic I want to get more into, Robert, because I do think that the safety in some ways can be overblown, especially when it relates to, thank you, Jean-Henri, or should I say John Henry? I probably shouldn't say John Henry. You probably hear that enough. Jean-Henri. What I'm most concerned about, okay, so I'm going to turn this into a question. If you were to ask me, Dave, what are you most concerned about from a side effect standpoint of GLP-1s that is something that we'll discover way down the line, could be, you know, a bigger trade-off than people understood when they started the medication? 100% I think that is how these drugs affect the brain. There's so much that they don't know about how these drugs affect the brain. They're learning more, and the future of these medications is in a lot of neurological studies. But what they've learned is that it acts in the pleasure reward center of your brain, that same center of your brain that was once giving you satisfaction for eating a savory snack or a sweet treat. For many people, it's just turned off. And so I really do think it begs the question over the long term, what else is it turning off? What else is it turning off? And could there be some sort of trade-off that you're paying from a mental health standpoint? Or is there a better way that we can monitor patients, perhaps that start these medications, to make sure that they're staying in a good headspace? I think that is something that I think is worth exploring more with these medications when we talk about the potential of these medications' safety to be overblown. So I think that will be interesting. Robert thinks that the real problem is overdosing and being directed by the brands. Yeah, I think that the clinical trials are definitely designed, at least for the medications that are on the market, are definitely designed to get people up to higher doses, which I don't know in the real world that it plays out that way. I think a lot of people are forced to higher doses when they would have done perhaps better to stay at lower doses. The trade-off, and again, I'm not a medical professional, but I talk to hundreds of them. I think the biggest trade-off is if you need the 15 milligram dose to get to your goal weight, you're probably going to need more medicine to maintain it. But if you're able to reach your goal weight at lower doses, you need less medicine to maintain, and some people may even have an opportunity to maintain without. Although there are so many other benefits to these medications in terms of inflammation reduction, food noise reduction, all those things that people benefit from that they may not want to maintain without the medication. But certainly the less medication you need, thanks Jamie for the glasses over on TikTok, the less medication, at least for me personally, if I could maintain with less medication, that's more ideal for me. I'd rather be on low doses and achieve what I need to than have to go up to high doses to achieve what I want to achieve from a health outcome standpoint. And I think the clinical trials have been designed in such a way that they want to get as much weight loss as possible, so they slam to the high doses. And then doctors seem to follow that titration schedule because that's what they did in the trials. And I just don't know. That's where we get into the importance of personalized medication. And I think the future of obesity medication is going to be personalized medication, but not in the way that it's used as a marketing buzzword today. I think in the future, you will be able to take blood tests, perhaps swabs of your spit that tell you these are the hormones that you're dysregulated in. These are the ways that we can supplement that from a peptide standpoint and get you to where you want to be. I do think that the future of obesity medication is more individualized because it is a nuanced chronic relapsing disease. Not everybody experiences it the same way, right? Your obesity is not the same as my obesity. That's why I've been on these medications for 3 years and haven't gotten to my goal weight. And many people who have been on these for a few months have gotten to their goal weight. It's just not experienced the same way. Let's see, more questions. I want to honor these. Remember to use QQQ when you ask a question. That helps me identify them. Like Jay's question, is Retta coming out in 2026? The expectation for Retta at this point is that it will come out in 2027 because the final clinical trial with weight loss as the primary outcome doesn't end until December of 2026. I think it's December of 2026. You can look that up and fact check me on that. There is a clinical trial for Retta ending that we should get data on this month yet, which will be fun. But that primary outcome is in osteoarthritis. And so weight loss is not the primary endpoint of the retatrutide trial that we get data on. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, when we talk about the potential of it hitting the market, we need those obesity trials to hit first. The pricing will probably be outrageous is probably a fair point from Bear Paw Shiloh's. It's always risky to read these screen names. You never know what people say. So we're at 45 minutes of live streaming. If you haven't followed and you've been listening all along, please follow. Hit the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments if you subscribed. Chris has a question. When do you think generics to start to come through? If SEMA ends in Canada in January, they will sell worldwide, or do we have to wait for patents in each country? I mean, honestly, with semaglutide, I don't know how it works in Canada with cost. of generics, but the way the generics work in the United States in terms of cost is you don't get a huge reduction in cost the first couple of years that they're out. Look no further than liraglutide. I think branded liraglutide, which is the daily injection from Novo Nordisk, first generation for Novo Nordisk of GLP-1, there's still $1,100 list price. Now there's generic for both the obesity version and the diabetes version, but there's still hundreds of dollars for liraglutide. So it takes a couple years for generics to come down meaningfully in price. Again, I don't know how that works in Canada compared to the United States, but honestly, we're getting a better price reduction in the United States down to, I think what is, you can start Wegovy for, is it $199 a month right now? I think you'll ultimately see, I mean, you're going to see the price of all these medications go down to $250 over the next 24 months. If we're to believe that this most favored nation stuff pans out the way that it's been sold to us, it rarely, these things rarely do politically, but we'll have to see. We have seen meaningful price reductions so far. Chris is in the UK. They have no compounds or anything. We just have the Lilly Quick Pens. You're so lucky that you have compounds in the US. Yeah. And they're fighting tooth and nail to get rid of them. That's what this live stream has been about. Do we think we'll see a 25 savings card for Retta? I think you'll see a savings card for Retta, especially if it's not part of the most favored nations negotiations and if there's no cash pay option right away. I think you definitely will see a savings card for Retta. You do typically with every new medication that launches in this country because they're trying to get insurance companies to cover it. And while they're getting it to cover, they don't want to miss out on getting people on the medication. Within the next 2 years, Zepbound is supposed to go down to $250. Will this be for the lower doses or the uppers? That'll be for all doses. That's all doses should go within the next 24 months down to $250. Question: in the U.S., Wegovy is 100 to 200 euros. MJ is to 200 to 300 euros. That doesn't look like a question, but more of a comment. Yeah, I mean the tiered pricing is interesting there, right? All right. Looks like we're caught up with the questions. We're about 50 minutes in. Who has hit the subscribe button today? Has anyone hit the subscribe button today? I hope that you have. I hope that you've hit the thumbs up button. We've got 530 people watching between Twitter and YouTube. We've got another 67 watching over on TikTok. We've got a wife trying to call and interrupt the live stream. How much time will be cut out of the approval process if they cut phase 3 testing? Yeah, Woodkirky is a great question, astute question. Thank you for the follow over on TikTok. A phase 3 trial is the longest trial. Phase 2 trials can be as long as 48 weeks. We just got a loralintide data on a phase 2, which was 48 weeks long. So you extend that phase 2 trial essentially out to 68 weeks or 72 weeks or 80 weeks, however long you want that study to be. My sense is they'll be a little bit longer if they cut out the third study. So let's say they're 80 weeks. So a phase 2 trial goes to 80 weeks. You're essentially cutting out the time it takes to go from phase 2 to phase 3, which is typically months, and then the added time of the phase 3. So I think ultimately you could see them a full year or year and a half earlier than we'll see on the sorry, I'm trying to read a text from my wife. We'll see them a full year to year and a half earlier with this change than we normally would. Will the price of MJ go down? Yes, the price of Mounjaro is going down. It will be available through Lilly Direct. Mounjaro is a diabetes indicated drug, and so it'll probably still stay the same through insurance companies, but the cash pay price is coming down for sure. Look, Julia became a member of our YouTube channel. Thank you for becoming a member. Listen, if you want to support the work that we do like Julia did, you can become a member on our YouTube channel, but even better if you become a member on the Substack, which is where you get updates right to your inbox. 90% of what we do on our Substack is completely free. You can sign up at obesity.news. Just type that into your browser. You can get updates every day, including when we go live. But becoming a member on YouTube helps you get access to some content that we create too, and we also give you a discount on joining the Substack. You just have to email me for the code. She's frustrated. She's Christmas shopping on her lunch break, I think, and so she's asking me questions about a concert that we're going to maybe take the kids to. Shh. That's just between the 537 people watching over here and 65 people watching there. That's be our little secret. Nobody tell my kids. Robert with another question. I think peptide therapy, a new term, will be the trigger trend going into the future. So many other benefits from peptides. Yeah, peptides, I think, are definitely where a lot of this space has learned about the benefits of peptide therapy beyond just GLP-1. We've got stuff that we're planning in the works here at On the Pen to help you navigate the world of peptides. I've got, I don't know if it's really an announcement. I'm going to save it for the Substack. There's some meaningful things happening with peptides right now in the background that will legitimize the whole industry too, which I think is really good. Do compound pharmacies pay for any cost-related trials? No, they don't. Or do they copy and reap the benefits without the risk? Pretty much that. It's pretty much that. However, I think if that's just how you view compound pharmacies, then you're missing the meta picture on what they do. Compound pharmacies serve as a backstop, especially there's two kinds, 503As, which are the pharmacies that serve to help patients who can't tolerate the branded medication. So it could be something as serious as a cancer drug or something as, minute as like a topical cream. But the compound pharmacies, 503As, serve those patients. 503Bs serve as a backstop so that when things get squirrely on the world stage and we can't get antibiotics from China or we can't get this from that country or whatever, compound pharmacy can step in and mass produce medications that we need to keep American citizens safe and protected. So there is a sanctity, I think, that we need to look at our compound pharmacies with and to do our best to protect them as an industry. Compound pharmacies historically have been there when we need them, which is a really hard way to build a business around. Like, we're only needed when there's a shortage of this or a shortage of that. Like, I think GLP-1's brought a level of stability to their business that, of course, they want to try to protect. But I really respect the work that they do at compound pharmacies. Any rumblings about CVS starting to cover Zepbound again, up again, since the price is going down? Do you think that would make sense to them? I'm not sure what the stipulations are with their deal with Novo Nordisk, but I do know that many people who are on CVS end up getting on Mounjaro anyway. I think it was just a ploy for Novo Nordisk to show an increase in Wegovy scripts and slow the growth of Zepbound, is to get people off Zepbound, and even if they didn't go on to Wegovy, they went on to Mounjaro, so it still looked like Zepbound was growing slower to the investor community. I think that's what that was about, but that's just my take. QQQ means you're asking a question. That is what the Q means. Hello from H-Town. Appreciate what you do for the GLP-1 community today. Thank you, RE. I appreciate what you do for me with all your support. All of you, thank you so much for the comments that you leave, all of the encouragement. Debbie, Jay Nebraska, Sue the Dude, Hambone, you all keep me going here. You guys are such great encouragers to me. This isn't easy to do every day. Some days it's hard. It's just hard to get on and get the energy to do the on-the-screen stuff. But you guys give me the energy to do it and make me excited to do it. And I want to thank you all personally for the gift that is. The gift that it is to do this each and every day, to bring you obesity medicine news from the patient perspective is such an honor. So excited to be doing it now every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Central Time, which is my time. We try to make it in Eastern Time to make it easier for you. Can we add to the bill if pharma has a drug that can help people and it's ready to be approved? If they choose not to, we should be able to get it through compounders. Ooh, Julia, that is a fantastic idea. There needs to be something like that in place. I think that's a wonderful idea, Julia, sorry. I think GLP space is so big that all the players can participate and profit. Let all the players participate and everyone wins, especially the consumer. I agree. Patients win. Let's see here. Yeah, this is an excellent point, Julie. They're holding back CAGR for financial reasons, 100%. 100%. I think that would be great. Be a great trade-off. Thank you, Jay Neb, who's sending love and blessings. I appreciate that. Love and blessings to my favorite Nebraskan. Debbie said, you're the best, Dave. Love you, Debbie. Thank you for your support. I think, yeah, it's a super idea. Well, we're at 55 minutes, so if there aren't any other questions for the day, I'm going to wrap it up. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you found it interesting. If it was, please just do me the favor of hitting the thumbs up button. And because it is the holidays, anybody who puts book in the comments after this goes live, We'll pick a couple at random to send a signed copy of Decoding GLP-1, a guide for friends and family on the pen. A couple stocking stuffers in there too, if you want to help us out that way. It helps what we do. And also, if you become a member on Substack, you can get a signed copy of our book as well. So we'll be giving many of those books away for Christmas, and we'll probably also throw some other fun stocking stuff for OTP goodies in there. We've got some fun stuff around here, don't we, Hambone? So put that in the comments after this video goes live. Just come back to it, or after the live is over, come back to it and put a comment on the actual video that posts. That helps us. Put book in the comments for that after we're live. Can't keep track of them in the live chat, but after the live ends, it's the time to do that. 600 folks watching between Twitter and YouTube. Another 64 watching on TikTok. Really appreciate all of you. We will check you guys later. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being the best part of what we do. See you next time.